Good morning, Dr. Urmi. Dr. Urmi. Ma'am, shall we start? Urmi, ma'am. Dr. Urmi, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
With your permission, ma'am, shall we start?
Yes, absolutely. We can start. No problem.
Thank you, ma'am. Respected all, good morning. A heartiest and warm welcome to the second day of the AICTE sponsored 1 week faculty development program on design thinking for manufacturing excellence, organized by the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, Faridabad. This session is on Involution of Human Ergonomics in Product Design and Development. Eminent speaker for the session is Dr. Urmi Ravindra Salve. Dr. Salve's PhD in Human Factors and Ergonomics. Her valued experience includes National Institute of Miners Health, Department of Mines, Government of India in the field of occupational hygiene. As instructor for post-diploma course at NITIE, she has completed many industry-level ergonomics evaluation and intervention using cutting-edge outcome measures, including REBA, RULA, QEC, NMQ, JSI, MFA, OWAS, and many more. Heartiest welcome, ma'am. Over to Dr. Salve now.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I believe Dr. Arun was talking, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the nice introduction. So welcome you all to this particular session. I joined during the last session also. It was a very nice session. Even we were discussing a lot of cutting edge design thinking, like we are talking about design thinking and how the current days industrial revolutions are, then how we can incorporate those things. So very nice presentation it was. Thank you, Professor. Okay, so first I welcome all of you to my session. I am from Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. It's in Northeast. So we are in a very, very beautiful campus. So if you get a chance, I welcome all of you to my institute. It's a very beautiful campus to be visit. Okay. Okay. So let me tell you a few things before we start for the actual session. I am not an engineer, so all of you, whoever must be participating in this workshop, are mainly the mechanical engineers and instrumentation engineers. So I am not an engineer. I am an pure ergonomist. So I talk lot of things about the ergonomics, where human is working in a particular mechanical system, and then how the interactions are and how those information we should take up during the design thinking process. That will be the perspective of the presentation. What I suggest, whenever we are in a slide and we are discussing something, and if you have a doubt, please stop me, and we can debate if you have some query. And then once it is clear, then maybe we can go ahead with the next part of the presentation. Okay, so that way maybe we can proceed. As this is a workshop, we have a lot of opportunities to learn from each other. I am not much aware about the kind of profiles you have right now. So maybe you can know whenever you find that, okay, this is the topic is very important, and you find similar things in your situation or in a working place. Then maybe we can discuss it further, and later also, it's not only in this session, we can discuss the things later as well. Okay, so this way maybe we can proceed. Okay, the concern is like, today I have some technical glitch, so I am not presenting from my computer. I requested the organizer to present my slides on my behalf. So I'll be asking to move slides, and please, I think Professor Arun, you are moving the, replacing the slides, right?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So maybe please follow my instruction, then you can move. Okay, so my first slide says, move to next slide, that the move to next slide. Yes, so this is my topic that I am going to discuss today. So involution of human factors engineering or human ergonomics in product design and development. So I am from a department which department talks about design, not only product design. We have three different section. One is visual communication, product design, and interaction design. So here I mentioned specifically product design. However, I will be discussing more about the holistic approach of design. Okay, so how human factors engineering or ergonomics need to be considered or is involved in the product design and or the design process and the design developments. That will be the today's discussion. Move to next slide, please. Okay. So as this, the major aim of this workshop is design thinking. So I thought of, let me tell you, or already you must be knowing, but still let me revise that what is design thinking and what is the design thinking concept that we are going to take further for today's session. So I will be trying to emphasize on this particular definition of design thinking. There are several definitions available. On an average, they are quite similar, but this is the very specific definition I will try to follow during my presentation. So I will say that design thinking is a process. What process? It's a process where we are mainly talking about human being. Okay, so when we are designing something, maybe it is a tangible product, maybe it is an intangible product, whatever it is, whatever we are designing in our design process, it should be human-centered, where it will emphasize on the deep understanding of the consumers, targeted users, and the innovation of the products, service, process, and business in a holistic manner. Okay, and what we will be doing, we will be integrating the whole process will be very much integrative in nature. It will be creative in nature because we are talking about design, and it should inspire all the design community so that there are more number of such designs come into existence. Okay, so whenever we are talking about design thinking as a holistic approach, it has several aspects. One is we have to concentrate on the target user. Target user means who is going to use the product. Again, I'm emphasizing, it can be tangible, it can be intangible, no matter. It can be only a simple service. It can be simple a document. Okay, whatever we are going to design, it should be human-centered. It should be human-centric. That is one thing. And when we are mainly considering the definition of design thinking in this way, then human factors engineering or ergonomics is become a more important aspect, and then we can discuss or we can implement the human factors concept or human factor engineering concepts in the design process or design development. So once we understand that, okay, we are going to consider this particular definition for the design thinking, let me tell you what is ergonomics and how that is getting into the design thinking process. Moving to next slide, I will first tell you the background or let's say history of ergonomics. So many of us know this particular terminology, ergonomics. Ergonomics is from two specific words. One is ergon, E-R-G-O-N, ergon. Another is nomos, N-O-M-O-S, nomos. So when we are talking about ergon and nomos, what is the meaning of it? Ergon means work. Any work that a human being is performing will be considering that as work. And nomos means natural law of doing that particular work. So why these two things are together? So whenever we are doing any particular work, right now I am talking to you, you are listening to me. Okay, so this is a particular work where lot of products are within this particular system. So right now it's in online medium. So we have main working system, that is our computer system. If it is an offline mode, then we have microphones, we have podium, we have surrounding environments, many things are involved. Our table, our chair, our illumination level, noise level, many things are involved. Okay, so when we are talking about work is associated with certain environment, and it is suggested that if we perform any particular activity or particular work, we should follow the natural law of doing that particular job or doing that particular work. So if we go by the literal meaning of ergonomics, it says that whenever we perform a particular job or particular work, we should follow the natural law of doing that particular job. Now, if we see, all of us are teachers, so we know how do we design our class timings. Normally, if you look at the class timings of kindergarten schools, it is different. If we talk about the class timings of higher secondary schools, it is different. When we are talking about class timings of colleges, it is little different. But how these class timings are designed. So one thing that we need to finish these many courses and we have to finish our syllabus. That is one thing. The second consideration is how long someone can perform that particular activity of teaching and listening without hampering or without going beyond the natural law of doing that particular job. So if you are sitting in a particular posture or if you are sitting in a particular workplace for longer duration, although the posture is very comfortable, still it may cause difficulties or discomfort, right? So whenever we are talking about doing any particular job, so we should follow the natural law. Okay, so this is the basic meaning of ergonomics. So whenever we are designing a product, designing a service, designing any interaction medium, whatever we are designing, we need to understand the human capacity, human capability. Okay, now coming to this particular figure, if you look at the circle, okay, first it is mentioned man, okay, then in an arrow it is mentioned work, then it is tool. So these three components, I cannot show you my cursor, so that is a difficulty. But please try to follow these words. First is man, then work, and then tool. So if you look at these three major components, we call it as a system. We call it as a human machine system or ergo system, where one component is man. Man means human being. Okay, it can be man or woman, doesn't matter. Okay, we call it as a man. Then work, or the machine or the activities that we are going to perform, and the tool. Okay, so what are the instruments are available, and all these things are associated with a particular environment. Now you look at all the interactions point. Okay, so there is a point where work is affecting on the man. So when I am talking, okay, so the kind of energy I need to speak is affecting my body. Okay, if I continue this volume and this energy for maybe 5 hours or 6 hours, definitely there is going to have some impact on my voice, right? If you are listening to the same amount of sound for longer duration, initially you have lot of attention, you have lot of energy to listen, you are pointing out or you are noting down several points, but after a certain duration, this particular sound may turn into a noise. Noise means it's an irritation. Okay, so then it can be a difficulties. Okay, so everywhere when we are working, there are impacting factors, and these impacting factors, being an ergonomist working in the field of design, what I have to do is we have to do lots of permutation and combination to make sure it is working in an optimal condition. It is working in an optimal condition. Now, for an ergonomist, we always say that every work, whatever application or whatever activities we are doing, we should improve or we should enhance the human health. We should work in such a way so that human health is in a good condition. That is very, very important aspect. However, when we think all these aspects from an employer points of view, then they definitely thinks about their, think about their production, they think about how much money they are getting from this particular work and all. So ergonomics interventions or ergonomics implementations are always associated with the production level. So we say that whatever ergonomics intervention we do in terms of design, in terms of changing the work environment and whatever, we should improve the productivity from the previous situation to the next level. So ergonomics never talks about only health or human comfort. It further talks about the productivity. And we know what is productivity per unit input. What is my output is the productivity. So whenever we are talking about the implementation of any ergonomics intervention, we need to have real quantitative measurement where we can say, yes, there is an improvement in the productivity, whereas human being or human health is in comfortable position. So Professor Grandjean, who tried to describe ergonomics in a way that fitting the job to the man. So his definition was fitting the job to the man. So whatever jobs are available, whatever designs available, what we have to do, we have to make sure it is fitting to the human being. So we are always according to that particular definition, we are trying to adjust all the varieties of job, whatever is available at the workplace, to the human being. Now, if you look at this particular definition and if you try to implement that, you will see there are a lot of cost involved. Okay, so it becomes very difficult for a person, for an ergonomist to implement this particular definition in actual field. So in practice, what we try to do is we try to optimize the fitting the job to the man and fitting the man to the job. Okay, so optimization we try to do to make sure that human health is not compromised. Also, the productivity is in enhanced mode. Okay, so these two things we check and then we decide, yes, this is the point where we can implement our ergonomics intervention. So this is very, very, very important aspect for ergonomics. So if you look at this particular picture once again, that diagram, where we say that man operates the tool and the tool has an impact on the human being. I'll just give a small example. You want to open a door where it is with a lock and key, and it's a lock, and then you using a key you want to open it. Okay, now once you have a key, it is designed for adult person's use. Okay, now if you ask a child to use that particular key and open the lock, it may cause difficulties to the child. Why? Because they purely decided that yes, this is a safe zone and this is a zone where any children should not enter. So that's why they locked it. They decided that strength of the key in such a way that child or any kid cannot open or cannot use it. So what is the kind of muscular strength is required to open or to move that particular portion, and then they design that particular thing. Now I'll just give one more example. All of us are in a particular domestic environment, we have the plug points, right? So where 3-pin plugs or 4-pin plug, 5-pin plugs are there, those holes are there. Now in a domestic area, can you tell me what is the kind of dimension or diameter should be there for that particular hole? Can anyone tell me what is the diameter and why that diameter is in a domestic condition? I'm talking about at our home. Okay, if we have a 3-point, the 3-pin plug points, so there are holes. Just give me a moment, okay? I don't know. Okay, so my question is, we have the 3 pins plug points and there are holes, right? Can anyone tell me for a domestic condition, what is the diameter and how do we decide that particular diameter? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so my question to the participants, can anyone tell me, it's not, I'm not like, it's just for a discussion, how the ergonomics is involved in the design process. That's why this question is. Yeah, is my question clear to everyone? That what is the diameter of those plug points, plug holes? And why that is the diameter? Okay, so I'll tell, if no one is answering, I'll just quickly answer. In a domestic surrounding or domestic condition, there is always a chance that, so when we are adult, we know that is a danger. Okay, so we will never put our fingers inside that hole, but toddlers may not understand. So diameter of that hole was decided based on the toddler's little finger, okay, that little finger's diameter. So if by chance they try to insert also, they will not be able to insert, okay. So that's the human considerations are there when they design that. Later, there are a lot of evolution, but basic concept was that by mistake, there should not be any accidents. So how? That anthropometric dimension. Anthropometric means the body dimension. Anthro means body, metric means measurement. Okay, so body dimensions, measurement. So for a toddler who doesn't understand that what is the danger and what is the difficulties they may face if they insert their fingers in that particular hole, so for them they should not enter. That's why the diameter is being decided. Okay, so that's the kind of considerations are always there when we are designing a particular system. Okay, so this way we try to incorporate or involve our human factors or ergonomics issues in the design process. Okay, this is just a simple or very small example everybody must be knowing. Okay, but still I thought I'll give this example. Okay, moving to next slide. So is this particular slide clear to all? If yes, then let's move to the next slide. Arunji, please move to the next slide.
Hello.
Yeah, please move to the next slide.
Ma'am, one second. Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So when we are talking about designing, what designer needs? Designer needs the human anatomical features. How do we get that human anatomical features? Mainly measuring the body dimension, that is the anthropometry. So anthropometry means measuring the body dimension. So we have very specific field in the field of ergonomics where we specifically measure the body dimensions. Okay. So for male, it is different. For female, it is different. Proportions are different. Okay, so circumference, height, length, different indices, all do we measure for a body. We call it as anthropometric dimensions. Okay. And then we have different considerations of percentage of those measurements. So we have very specific concept of 5th percentile, 95th percentile, or 50th percentile. So what is 5th percentile consideration when we are designing any product? If suppose we are talking about door height. Okay, so door height, suppose we want to design a door height, we want to decide the door height. Everybody knows, what is the kind of standard door height, but do we know what is the background of it? Background is, yes, everybody will say, yes, everybody should enter through that particular door. Absolutely right. But how do we ensure that that is the maximum possible height? No, there is not any particular surety, because there may be a population and there may be a particular person in that particular population who is taller than that particular decided height. So we take a consideration, or we take a concept called 99th percentile or 95th percentile. What is that? That when we are taking any kind of measurement, if it is a symmetrical distribution of your data, then we are saying 95% or 99% of the population will be able to use that particular product, whereas there is a chance there may be some people that lies in the 5th% or 1%, depending that 99th percentile or 95th percentile data you are taking. So based on that, you will be deciding. So all the anthropometric measurement or anthropometric data, whatever we measure, based on my design, we use these concepts: 95th percentile, 50th percentile, or 5th percentile data, and then we use it. Now, when we talk about specifically tangible product design, we have 3 different concepts. One is you design, that is very static. Okay, so there is no possibility of adjustment. So this is the table height, this is the chair height, and somebody of this height only can use it. So it's a customized, for me, I am designing it. There is a concept called that we are designing for an average group of people. Okay, so for an average group, we are designing who are not within this average range. So who are beyond the average range, they have to do some kind of adjustment or compromise, and then they can use it. Another is you design something which has a adjustable range, So with that particular adjustable range, someone can use it comfortably. Now, based on the kind of range we are providing, adjustable range we are providing, the cost of the product will keep on changing. Okay, so if we give a range of huge range of adjustment in a particular product, then there will be a lot of mechanisms that a lot of other materials may be involved, and the cost of the product may increase. Okay, so that way, when designing any product or conceptualizing any particular designing, these anthropometric concepts come into existence and they play a role. Now coming to physiology and biomechanical characteristics, what these two things are. Physiological, so as any product is going to use by the human being, or the end users are the human being, how the human physiology is reacting to that, or accepting that particular product, or interacting to that particular product. If we don't understand, then we may not be able to design it properly. So that's why understanding the physiological concept for a designer is very, very important. Whereas for biomechanical, yes, muscle strength, muscle movement, range of movement, all these concepts for a human body is very, very important before we design any particular product. Suppose we want to place a particular signboard, or maybe pathway direction in a certain position. Now we should understand what is the capacity of a human being to look at that particular signboard, to understand. So cognition level, so a few things are physical, and few things are in the part of cognitive aspect. So how these two things are connected, before we understand that, we may not be able to design a good signboard, okay, or may not be able to place in a proper position. So that is important. So when we do that, we need to understand the relation to the physical activity. So what are those? Mainly the working posture, materials that they are handling, repetitive movements, if they are using any product. So what is the kind of repetitive movements they have? Work-related musculoskeletal disorders, workplace layout, safety and health. These are the major considerations they have to take care. So what ultimately the ergonomics or human factors does, it plays an important role in the product design process and make the designer responsible for establishing the ergonomics value of the newly developed product. So they make sure that these ergonomics features or ergonomics values are available in the newly developed products. So that's the way people use it. Okay, moving to next slide. Okay, so what exactly it says? It says that design for the human or system interface and account for both cognitive and physical limit. Why? Because what I prefer or I practice being an ergonomist, whenever we are designing something, we should understand that what are the limitations we have, we means as a human being we have in terms of cognitive and physical. Because if you look at the domains of ergonomics, there are major three domains. One is physical ergonomics, cognitive ergonomics, another is organizational ergonomics. Organizational ergonomics is more of an application of physical and cognitive. So major two domains are cognitive ergonomics and physical ergonomics. So whenever we are designing a product, we need to understand what are the physical and cognitive capabilities are involved for using that product, and what is the kind of limitations we have for while using that product. So if you understand the limitation, we need to incorporate those information into the design, into the product, so that the product become user friendly, easy to use, and more more effective while using the product. Okay, so that's why understanding the cognitive and physical limitations is very important for a designer if they want the designer the design to be human factors or ergonomics influenced. Okay, so major goals or measures will be the improve the effectiveness of that product, improve the efficiency of that product, safety, satisfaction. Of course, we are talking about design, so all the varieties of tactile sensation that should be satisfied. Important aspect is decreased error, because if you are able to decrease the error, ultimately productivity will be on the higher side. So effectivity of that particular product will be on the higher side. Reduce fatigue for human being. Okay, so if I'm using a particular product and I am getting a lot of tiredness, boring, monotony, and all those things, then it may happen I will not be able to use the product afterwards. So I have to make sure while using the product there is reduction in the fatigue level. Learning curve. Okay, so I should not have a long learning curve, because if I have a long learning curve, I may be disappointed and I will not be able to use the product very easily. So I have to make sure the learning curve is little small and ensures the operability and usability. Definitely it should be from the perception, whatever the perception we have should be in positive mode. Otherwise I will not be, being a user, I will not be using it. Move to next. Yes, so we always say involve the ergonomics, this particular subject or concept, in the early stage of design, because if you start with this, if you involve this particular concept in the very beginning, then slowly once you go ahead in your designing phase, you will get the better result, because you can do a lot of correction at the very beginning. Because right now if you look at the market, we have lot of digital softwares, okay, where we can really simulate lot of ergonomics factors, especially posture, vibration, noise, all other stress, all these factors in a simulated condition, and we can do the optimization. Once we do the optimization and we build that particular environment, then physically we can develop the prototype and do the testing. So this whole process actually reduces lot of cost and save lot of cost. And if we involve this ergonomics, nurturing this particular concept of ergonomics in the beginning of the designing thinking process, then we get the better result. Okay, so that should be the basic motivation for a designer if they want to involve or you want to get a good ergonomics product. Okay, move to next slide. Okay, so here I try to mention that human factors engineering or ergonomics is applied to the human machine system. Earlier already I told that when we are talking about ergonomics, we have a system, we call it ergo system, man, machine, environment, system. So where one component is man, another component is machine, and another component is environment. So if we look at this particular composition, man, machine, environment, system, we see we divide based on the position of the these components into simple system and complex system. What is simple system? Simple system is there is a system where only one machine, one human being, and one environment. Okay, so everything is one. So if that is so, then we will be calling it as simple system. Now, if any one of the component is more than one in unit, then we will be calling it as complex system. Okay, so that is the based on the what is the number of components available in the system. Whereas if we talk about the involvement of the automation in the system, we have three divisions. One is manual system, mechanical system, and automated system. Now, being a designer, if we think from the design thinking perspective, if you want to involve the ergonomics into it, manual system is more difficult system where you have to do lot of activities to adjust that and get the best output or best productivity and keeping the human health in a good position. Whereas in automated system, when you are dependent more on the power driven activity, or now if we are talking about industry 4.0, lot of cognitive related activities are present. So there are less of physical component or physical ergonomics is present, whereas more cognitive aspect is the requirement. Okay, so when we are talking about industry 4.0, so we have a nice research paper recently published from our lab, where we tried to establish that what is the kind of cognitive load we are getting if we are translating the manufacturing units into industry 4.0. Of course, now the evolution is much more on the higher side. Still, we are talking about industry 4.0, and we are trying to understand what is the kind of ergonomics, cognitive load they have when they are in that kind of automation. Okay, so and then if we want to design the system, where should be my intervention point? Okay, where should be my where should be my design implementation, so that whole system becomes more user friendly and productivity improved, and improved productivity, and human health is in a good condition. That we need to think. So human factors or ergonomics focuses upon human interactions. With what? With equipment, with product, with facilities, and the environment. So these are the major interaction point when we are talking about the whole ergo system or human machine environment system. So we should emphasize on the human being and on the engineering to meet the capabilities of the human being. Okay, so whenever we are talking about ergonomics, we need to understand the physiological, biomechanical, cognitive, all these capabilities of human being, and accordingly we need to design that particular product or process. Okay, moving to next slide. So this is very typical definition. It's the source is mentioned on the bottom of this slide. I prefer this definition for one reason, because here you can see the involvement of ergonomics is very, very prominent. So what is the definition? It says, definition says, design is to design the design of a design, whereas the first design just generates a particular concept, one understanding. Okay, so that is the first design. Second design is a particular activity. Okay, you have to do this, like that. The third one is the plan of intention, or plan or particular activities that you are performing. So if I want to make this gadget, I need to do this first, I have to do this and then this, like that. You have a plan of action. Then final one is the product. So this way, design has 4 different meaning in this particular definition of design, and every place, like, you know, general concept, activity, plan, and the final product, if you look at, you will see the involvement of ergonomics or involvement of human factors engineering. Okay, so that's why I prefer this definition of design if if you want from the ergonomics point of view to define this. Okay, so that's why this is very, very important, and always we use this particular definition. Okay, moving to next slide. So again, I'm coming back to the concept of design thinking. So design thinking is an interactive process in which designers seek to understand the user, challenge assumption, and redefine the problems in an attempt to identify the alternative strategies and solutions that might not be instantly apparent with initial level of understanding. So whenever we are thinking, we are trying to understand, okay, this is it, but if we go into detail of understanding, we may find, yes, it may not be like this, it may have some different meaning of it. Okay, so this way, if you look at it, then because it's an very much iterative process, it's not that once we decide, okay, this is the final product. No, you start with a concept, you develop it, you process it, then you will see the consequences. Again, we come back and again we do the modification, and then again we go ahead. So it's a feedback or change system continuously we are doing, and it's always an alternative method or alternative strategies that we need to follow. So and there is the involvement of ergonomics, because everywhere we are considering the ergonomics issues or human factors issues while defining this. Okay, moving to next slide. So if we see, this is not my concept at all. It's a predefined concept. It's printed in many textbooks. You will see that if we talk about the definition or understanding of design thinking, it says first you empathize the scenario or empathize the concept. Okay, so first you need to understand it. You have to realize it. Then after your realization, after your empathization, you need to define it. Now this definition, how do you define it? It's based on yes. So when we are talking about defining it, defining means that ultimately how your product or the or your design is going to perform. The whole concept you are going to give a specific description. Okay, that is the definition or defining that. Okay, so defining your design. Then you start ideating, then prototyping, and then final testing. Now this whole process is in a chain. It's a feedback mechanism, and every point you have a chance to incorporate or implement the human factors issues. Okay, so suppose you empathize a particular concept, then you define it. Once you define, then you again check back that what are the human factors you considered and how those human factors is going to react on it. Then again you ideate, again the same process appear. Then once you prototype, because then you are actually started doing making that particular product, right, particular design. So then all these images, so you will come to know what are the interactions points with the environment, with the man. Again, you have to think from the man-machine environment system, that what are the interactions points and how the interactions points are impacting or acting on those other factors. So if you think back to my first slide where we are talking about, in a circle, man, machine, or tool and work is there, and everywhere they are connected with a diagram. Okay, so that particular points you have to keep on questioning or checking in the prototyping phase. Once you clear that prototyping phase, then you go for testing. And once you test, if you see that there is a difficulty, please come back and again in our previous stage and keep on repeating if there is a problem. Okay, but everywhere we need to consider the human factors aspect or ergonomics concept. Okay, moving to next slide. The earlier one, you skipped one. Yes, so design, yes, stay here. So design thinking translates the observation into insights and insights into innovation through an exploratory, iterative, and non-linear process. Very important. It's not at all a linear process. It's a non-linear process which leads to an unexpected discovery. Okay, so as soon as you keep the human factors consideration into that whole system or into the whole process, you may get very different result altogether. And since the process is fundamentally an exploratory process, so design thinking, if you look holistically, it's an exploratory process. And everywhere when you keep on incorporating the human factor, so you see the diagram, there is always a chance to incorporate a very, very new feature of the product. Okay, so that's why we say that we ultimately, so when you defined your product, when you defined your problem before you started design, and when you end up at the at your research, you may get absolutely new invention or a new kind of understanding from the which is very different than what you started in the beginning. So that's why it's very much exploratory in nature. We say in design that don't start thinking your concept with limitation. First, start thinking from bigger perspective. Then try to incorporate small requirements, and then your product will take a shape. Okay, so but in the very beginning, if we think about those no technical limitation, like we think about material, we think about strength and all those things, we may not be able to overcome or may not be able to get a very good product. So always start from the exploration of the possibilities. Okay, moving to next slide. So how does human factors positively impact design? Very important concept, because it it really considers the human limitations. It talks about the information theory, memory. So whenever we are talking about human beings, suppose we want to design a web page. Okay, so now when we are going to design a web page, I need to understand how my user is going to interact with that web page. If so, what is the kind of age group they have for this particular web page? What is the kind of information they are looking for? So where those tabs will be, where how my architecture will look like, all these information I should have before I design that particular web page. Okay, so that's why we need to understand the information, we need to understand the memory of the user, we need to understand the attention level of those particular resources, then compatibility, then input modalities, like how we are giving the information to the system. So here everything is all we are talking about the system. Then of course anthropometry, strength, visual acuity, acoustic sensitivity, all these things we need to understand, and we need to understand what is the maximum possibility. Okay, so that is the limitation up to where we can stretch our system. So minimum level and maximum level identification is very important, because if we don't understand the range of our design, we will not be able to give a better design. Okay, so human factors always play an important role over here. Move to next. So this ensures that the final product, system or environment can be effectively utilized by the user without exceeding their capabilities. Again, the same definition, that whenever someone is working, they should work within or following the natural law of doing the job. So not exceeding the natural law, not going beyond the natural law of doing the job. So suppose you are designing a workstation where you need the movement in a vertical plane. So if you are talking about the movement of the vertical plane, what is the kind of trunk movement you are allowing? So maybe you can decide. So you never cross the maximum capacity or maximum exertion level of the human being when you are designing that particular system. Moving to next slide. So if you fail to do that, maybe your user will be frustrated, they will be fatigued, there will be a lot of errors. So error may cause accident and the whole system failure. So if you don't consider, then there will be all this bad impact. And if you consider, definitely your product will be a successful product. Okay, move to next. So we say that human system integration, how the human factors or ergonomics is uniting or the core component and becomes the core component for the human system integration. So it says that it's a comprehensive multidisciplinary technical and management process. So when I'm talking about, I'm an ergonomist and I am from a physiology background. Okay, so and I am talking to a people who are engineer. How it gel? Because the whole subject, the whole topic talks about understanding the human being, implementing those concepts, those capacities in terms of machine. So of course it's a It's a very much multidisciplinary nature. It needs lot of technical understanding, technical knowledge, where I may not be capable, where my counterpart, whoever is there, they will help us. So it's a mutual understanding when we are talking about the human system integration. Because when we are talking about human system integration, there man will be there, machine will be there, and environment will be there. So all these three factors need to be integrated properly. So it integrates the human consideration within the system development process. So when the system is developing, in that particular point itself, people will be incorporating these concepts, and then finally it will be a successful system. So it ensures that human contribution towards system performance is consistently addressed throughout the system life cycle. Because again, I am saying that we have lot of simulation process available, and because of those simulations, before we go for the final product, we may incorporate those human ergonomics concepts, and we get the better results. So it's throughout the life cycle, we have to keep on incorporating them. So human factors and human system integration implement this approach through the human-centered design process or design thinking process. Okay, so that's why human factors engineering or ergonomics and design thinking always go together. There is if we want also, we cannot have a very separate line for these two concepts. Okay, always they go along with each other. Okay, moving to next. So this is just for your understanding that what are the standards we have and how do we follow. So that's why I kept this particular slide, that it helps to understand, just for example. Okay, and there are major 4 fundamental steps are process is available. So what are those? So define the context of use. So before we start designing any particular product or any particular process, first you need to understand that context. Now, so I'll just give you example. Like suppose we are designing a mobile phone. Nowadays, mobile phones we are using for varieties of purpose. Our kids who are at home doing the online classes, they are doing classes with mobile phone. I am a person who is working. I have varieties of meetings. I have presentations. I use mobile phone. My parents who are very elder, they are also using mobile phone, and all are smartphone. So how the design, when people are designing those smartphone, how they are taking into consideration about those contexts, using mobile phone for online class, using mobile phone for office purpose, using mobile phone for getting some information like news, calling, message reading, okay, for those purposes. So understanding the context or defining the context, once you understand, then only you can define, is very, very important, or very first stage of this particular process. Then specify the requirement. Once you specify, then you start thinking. So you start coming up with the lot of ideation, conceptualization. Then you do the creation of the designing, and then you evaluate the design. Now, question is, I am from the beginning, I'm telling you, consider the human factors issues, human factors related component or ergonomics component in the design process. But in the evaluation also, there are a lot of ergonomics tool or ergonomics evaluation facilities available, which will tell you that is the whatever the consideration you have implemented or integrated, are they correct or not? Is there any positive impact or not? So again, involvement of ergonomics. So you have different types of ergonomics tool, and you can use those tools for evaluating those system. So we call it ergonomics assessment. Okay, so now if you talk about the workplace assessment, we can do the specifically workplace. If we talk about the work system assessment, we can do the for the work system, or maybe for a small tool design, or maybe for the for a particular classroom, whatever. So those ergonomics assessments are also there. So if you look back again, for whole design thinking process, ergonomics is available or present everywhere, starting from your conceptualization till you evaluate the system. So everywhere ergonomics is present. Moving to next slide. So we say that we identify the need, define that particular context, specify the requirement, create the design, evaluate the design, and complete the design. And there is always a circle, it's a feedback mechanism. Always we keep on doing, and we get the evaluation through the ergonomics ergonomics evaluation system. Okay, move to next slide. I am almost reaching to my end of my slides. Okay, so what this particular slide says that, is there anyone who is saying something? Okay. Hello. Okay. So how do we evaluate? So first we need to evaluate the user needs, or we call it as task analysis. Okay, so identify their needs, knowledge level, expectation, and their behavior. So these 4 components we should evaluate. We have different methods or tools or mechanism to do that. We have several materials available for that, and this may be done by observing the user in their natural working environment. Okay, so suppose somebody, we have a technique called overt observation and covert observation. Using those techniques you can get these data. Then design, so engineer that particular product with the target clients in mind. So you have a particular context, you have a particular target audience. For that you do the design, then you do the heuristic evaluation, then you do the testing in terms of usability testing, ergonomics evaluation, and getting the feedback from the participant. We call it participatory ergonomics. That way you evaluate it, and then get the final feedback from who are the actual user. From that you get the feedback and you do the evaluations. So like that you involve ergonomics process everywhere in the design thinking or design process or development. Okay, move to next slide. Move to next slide, please. Yes, so this is the key measures or goal. We need to make sure that product is fit to the particular audience. There is less error. I won't say zero error, because that is not at all possible for our working system. There will be some error, but we have to make sure number of errors are less, efficiency is higher, and satisfaction or perception is good, and they get the particular satisfaction level they are reaching, and the learnability is easy. So you say that learning curve is small. Okay, so these are the key measures for ergonomics in a design thinking process. Moving to next slide, I will give you some example. Okay, now I'll tell you a story of this particular photographs, and how ergonomics was involved in a design thinking process, and how do we finally get the product. So you see, there are three ladies. They are doing some activity. Now, let me tell you what is this particular activity. We have a particular place in India named Kolhapur. I think many of you know, many of you may not know, but it's a place in Maharashtra where they prepare a very specific footwear, leather footwear. Okay, we call it Kolhapuri chappal. So one of our survey said that this particular craft, it's a handcraft, right? So this particular craft is dying because the young generation is not at all motivated to involve themselves in this particular business or particular crafting work. So we started understanding, or we started researching that what are the varieties of bottlenecks are available for this particular job, and why people are not interested in this particular craft, because it's a beautiful craft and it's an ancient craft. Okay, while understanding those issues, we came to know that what are the amount of manual efforts they give to perform this particular job, and when the final product comes up, they are not having that much monetary benefit, because each pair they sell in the market is quite less as compared to the amount of effort they have taken in the whole manufacturing process. So that's why people are there are a lot of good options available, alternative options available. So definitely buyers go for those options. They don't come for these Kolhapuri chappals. So we tried to understand why the manufacturing time is too high, why the labor cost is too high, what is the kind of manual labor they need for this type of activity, all these details. Okay, so using different industrial engineering tool, mainly the time study, motion study, then workplace evaluation, posture evaluation, using all those things, we came to a kind of a conclusion that there are several steps of this handcraft. Okay, so to make this particular Kolhapuri chappal, there are several physical steps available. In that first, in that very important step is making the shape of the sole. Okay, so cutting the sole. So if you and if you look at the sole cutting process, it's very tedious in nature, because this particular Kolhapuri chappal is of pure leather. It's kind of a hard leather, and they need to cut those into a particular shape using their old tools, okay, ancient tools. So it becomes very, very difficult. So they have lot of ergonomics issue in terms of contact stress, force requirement, extra time, a lot of time consumption, and all those things. So in the very beginning, we thought of, and then we tried to understand that it's a craft. So if we, and craft means it's a handcraft. So if we mechanize the whole process, the essence of craft will go and there will be no value at the market. Okay, so our limitation was we need to keep the essence of handcraft in that particular product by any means. Whatever design intervention we do, we need to make sure that the essence of handcraft is available. Whereas we have to improve the whole manufacturing process. So then we decided to break down the whole process, and we came to know the sole cutting process is a tedious job and it takes a lot of time. Then we tried to understand that if this, what is the kind of impact of this particular process has on the in the final product. Okay, then we came to know the sole cutting process is not the major portion which gives the essence of handcraft. Major essence of handcraft comes from the designing of the shoe, like how the threads are moving, how the upper part of the chappal is covered. So all these are the major major activity which gives the look of the handcraft, like it says yes, it's a handcraft. Whereas the sole cutting, it appears it doesn't have any it doesn't have much impact. Also it says that there is a difficulties in the standardization because they do it by hand. The cutting process is by hand, and it becomes very difficult to maintain the standard size of those chappals. Okay, so what we did, we tried to break the whole manufacturing process into components, and we tried to see where the manual so automatic or design intervention, direct design intervention is possible, where direct design intervention is not possible. Finally, we found in sole cutting process, yes, there is a possibility where can we do some kind of mechanization to reduce the timing of the activity. Whereas stitching, Veni making means there are some threads, they prepare some kind of design, and such activities we cannot have. We cannot.
Please mute your mic, please.
So we cannot have design intervention, direct design intervention in the process. So design intervention in process, in the process, and design intervention in some other way. Okay, so we found sole cutting is a process, is a place where we can do the intervention in the process, whereas stitching we cannot do in any kind of design intervention. Then we thought, okay, let them do the stitching the way they want to do, but let us improve the workplace or workstation so that they get more comfort and their activities become more easy. Okay, so now this particular photographs actually comes into existence, that this particular stitching activity is female dominating area, where the females of the households does this particular job. Now then we try to understand that what are the kinds of tools they are using and what are the kinds of workstation they have. If we look at these three pictures, you see that there is no specific workstation available. Okay, there is no specific workstation. They just sit on the floor and they have a needle, they have the leathers, and they do the stitching. They do the stitching. So we thought of giving them a proper workstation so that they have a better posture, where they can improve the speed of activity, whereas the craft is same as they are doing it right now. Okay, so craft, we are not doing any intervention, because ultimately craft is giving the money to them. Okay, so then we try to understand what are the varieties of stitching workstations available for such activity. Just move to the next slide. Yes, you see, when we started finding in the global market, we see this type of stitching workstation, where the persons who are doing the stitching, they are mainly the male operator, and they are sitting on the bench in a crossed leg position, and they are doing the activity. The design appears very interesting. Like, it's not our design, it's somebody's else. Okay, it's a design from an Australian market. Okay, so the design appears very similar to us, but if you look at the workstation, it is not matching to our context. Why? Because our workers are mainly female. They are wearing sari. Well, while wearing sari, they cannot sit in this particular posture. They cannot work in this particular workstation. So it's a requirement that we should have a separate workstation to be designed, and we should give it to them. Okay, then we started rethinking on the requirement of the our Kolhapuri Chappal workers, and then we came out with a design. Move to next slide. I am not giving you the a lot of details of our design, because we already applied for a patent. So I am just giving small brief of this particular design. So finally we came with a design like this. It's an AutoCAD model. We have the physical model as well, and we implemented this. Now if you look at this particular design, the context of wearing sari is being considered. Also, we considered the slanting workstation, where they can keep their neck straight and work. I won't say neck straight, neck in a comfortable position. So they have a flexibility of neck movement as well as a back movement, and they have a flexibility of side movement. Okay, so if you look at the first picture, in that there is a bigger portion, like where it is showing a component A. So you see that particular portion has some kind of flexibility to move towards left hand side and right hand side, and height adjustment of the chairs was also there, and the kind of material we used for this particular chair design is simple wood or plywood, which is very easily available, and it is not costly at all for the workers to purchase. So that way we design this particular workstation. Now, while designing this particular workstation, we had major consideration was context. Second was the involvement of participant. So for each and every step of our design, we took input from the participant. Okay, we discussed their requirement from them, and then we tried to incorporate that into design. Again, with the new design, we went back to the workers or with the participants. We showed it to them. Then again, if they have some input, we try to incorporate. Like that, after 3-4 iteration, we came with the final product. And in the beginning, we decided to do with the CAD modeling, and we did the simulation and everything. And then we went with we developed this one with the actual material. And after we designed it with the actual material, we distributed that few pieces to them for their use and tried to gather final feedback. There were some small feedbacks about the sharpness and all those things. We corrected that, and finally we freezed our design and we sent it for our patent. And everything happened with the participatory ergonomics, involvement of the participatory ergonomics and design thinking process. Okay, so always we thought of design, while designing, we incorporated human factors, and we came out with a product which is actually accepted by the user. Okay, that is very important. If your design is very good, but it is not accepted by the user, it is not overcoming the limitation of the user, then your product may not be a successful product. So in this design, we could achieve that. So with this, I thought of this particular example I thought of putting here, and this is my last slide of my presentation. I thank you all. Move to next slide. So this is my department of design, and I work in the field of applied ergonomics, and we do a lot of this type of design intervention. Most of my PhD students are working with the actual what I can say, different manufacturing in industry or construction industries and all for the design intervention. And I welcome all of you once if you get a chance to visit our. Thank you so much. If you have questions, now the floor is open. You can please ask.
Thank you, ma'am, for the topic of concern and your valued inputs to enlighten the concepts of all of us. For the participants, if there is a query, please ask. Any query from the participants?
I think there is no query.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I could finish on time, I believe. Okay. So what next?
Hello. Urmi,
Yes.
Ravindra Kumar this side.
Yes.
Ma'am, my question is how ergonomic is related to design thinking?
So that's why that every design thing ideating to final product delivery, everywhere you should consider the human limitations, human considerations. Okay, just take the last example where we are talking about the designing stitching workstation for Kolhapuri chappal manufacturer. Okay, here design thinking process starts from how we can give the solution to them to improvement of their posture. Okay, so we started understanding what are the difficult postures they are adapting while working, and then how do we can correct them. So once we corrected the posture, then we thought about contact stress they have, what is the kind of repetition they are having, then what is the kind of adjustment they need to do, all this process. So everywhere we need to do the intervention or ergonomics considerations. So just go back to the design thinking process, the steps. If you move back, I'll just explain. Go back a little more. Maybe here, yes. So starting from empathizing your idea or empathizing the situation, then defining, then ideating. So every steps you are incorporating one human factors. So when you are talking about defining the problem of this current example, so the defining of the problem was they need a workstation where they can improve the posture. Now, when we are talking about posture, you are talking about the concept. We are talking about the context of use. Context of use is our limitation is gender, that female gender only will be working. What is the kind of attire they have? What is the kind of timing they will be spending in this particular workstation? What is the kind of activities they are doing? So is there whole body movement involved, or only the upper arm and fingers movement involved? So all these human factors we considered while defining our problem. So once we define that, we try to ideate, we try to get the new concept. Okay, so while ideating that, we again thought of all these information and we incorporated our idea. We took the information from the participant. Okay, we took the information participant, how we designed something, we went back. So we call it as participatory ergonomics. Okay, they gave the feedback that okay, you placed my this button on the right hand side, but it is little difficult, you place it in lower side. Okay, so that way you get the information. Okay, so all this ideating process, then prototyping, everywhere we are incorporating the human factors. Is it like clear, or could I answer your query?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Any more query, please? Dear participant, any more query? Dear participants, is there any query? Okay, Arun sir, can we conclude the session?
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful inputs and sharing of knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all the participants joined by for the third session in time. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank
we
you,
will
ma'am.
leave. Yeah, we will leave, right? Yeah.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.